muted if you're talking, Richard.
There you go.
How's that? There we go. Much, much better. All right. Let me get my... I don't know why it keeps dumping my ground on me. There we go. Get that there. All right. So we will dive right in talking about this. So the whoops, sorry. The way this works is we keep this very organic, very much just conversational. We don't really have specific questions. What we end up doing is this is an hour-long episode. It's YouTube, video, and then audio. Within the video of an hour, we have sort of green room pre-show, and then we have post-show some bonus material. And then within the audio, and you'll hear the audio as I kick into it, because I'll introduce the podcast, myself, Michael, give it to you to introduce yourself, and then dive in from there. We'll basically go from there and take it through to about an hour. As we get towards the end of it, we'll wrap up the audio portion, and then we'll do the bonus, which tends to be either a challenge to put out to our audience related to what we've talked about. Hey, here's something that'd be great for you to check out, try for the next week. Or if you've got a additional gem of wisdom or something that you'd like to provide the audience that didn't get covered in the audio portion of it. Can we do a Michael? Do you got a sound check, or is it okay?
Yeah, how am I coming in? I had to go to a coffee shop.
Sound good here.
Sound good to me. So I've got to give Michael a link. So he can.
Okay.
You're awfully quiet, Richard.
Testing 1, 2.
Better. Whoop. Hey.
Let me see if I can adjust my mic. Where is that? Settings.
Sorry, just had a fire truck go by. Okay, try it one more time.
Testing 1, 2. Check.
Perfect.
All right.
I can't raise it. It looks like it's set in the middle. All right.
Okay.
There we go.
So,
how's the video?
Yep.
Looks good.
That's good. We're awesome there. Let me get myself situated here. Ugh.
Which mic are you on, Rob? Are you on your shirt or your computer?
Yeah, shirt. Should be. So it shouldn't be tinny or anything like that.
Okay. Just double checking because you had that issue before.
Yeah, last time was because I was going off the laptop, so it was really weird. Okay. So that allows us to dive in. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing season 28. I'm still can't get over season 28. That's a lot of seasons. And we are season 28 of the Developreneur podcast, also known as Building Better Developers. I'm Rob Broadhead, one of the founders of Building Better Developers, Developreneur, also the founder of RB Consulting. We bring clarity. We help you ensure that before you step into that technology project and make errors, make mistakes, we actually get there beforehand so those expensive mistakes are avoided. Good thing and bad thing. Good thing is I've had a lot of great conversations lately. They're the kinds of things that are really helping, help me get some clarity of my own on what's going out there in the world. What are people struggling with? What are the organizations running into? Where are they stalling out? Where are the silent failures and all those pieces? The bad thing is that takes time. I don't know how many times I've had like a 30-minute call and it becomes a 60-minute call because it's just that good. So those problems exist. Much like my co-host, the problem that is always here. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Michael.
Thanks, Rob. Hey, everyone. My name is Michael Malash. I'm one of the co-founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we help businesses figure out their complex problems and find a tailored solution to help you scale your business, be it software, quality assurance, whichever you need, we help you solve your problem. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, today is extremely busy. Bad thing, I had to quickly jump out to find a Wi-Fi spot in the town that is a dead zone for cell phones. So hopefully I stay in focus for most of this call.
That can be a challenge. But more importantly, we don't have to listen to Michael too much because we've got an incredible host or guest this time around. Richard, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Richard Kersey with Chirper.com. That's 2 P's. And I'm the developer and founder of this little experiment that I'm trying out. We're seeing how much people care about their talking to humans online. So I am working on it daily, and especially like nights and weekends, big project. So it's just a constant 24/7 test, retest, and work on it type of project right now.
Well, this is one of the focuses this season. The focus this season is where I shows the cracks. And I think this is a great area to dive right into it, is the flood of content basically that AIs allow us to create. And it was actually just a week or two ago that I had somebody that I was using AI in a conversation on LinkedIn, and about 2 or 3 back and forth, he said, "Oh, I just realized I'm talking to Claude," and then stopped and blocked me. And it was one of those, it was a really interesting moment, because you think about all the great content that's out there. And now some of it is, okay, mediocre, but there's actually some stuff that is very good. Some of it is very much in the voice of the person that's providing that content. So it does a great job of amplifying our voice if it's done right. But also, like everything else, if it's garbage and it amplifies it, then it's just more noise. And so where did you love to dive into this? Is like, where did you start into this focus on separating AI versus humans, and when does it matter?
Well, I kind of, like many people who go online and get in comments or talking to anybody else online, you get into this constant flow of, am I talking to a bot, or is this conversation being pushed by someone with an agenda or something like that? Did the post itself come from a bot? And so, I think a lot of people complained about it. There's a lot of complaints about, these are bots talking. This is just bots pushing this agenda. And so I was kind of thinking about an experiment and about a way that we could tell if someone was a human without, and this is the important part, without having to give up your identity, because you want that accountability, but with still retaining that not anonymity. And that's kind of the tough part, because most places, the way that you verify you're human is you have to show a picture or verify your identity in some way. And so how do we get the best of both worlds? And so that was kind of the impetus of getting it started and really going down the road of, is this real and can it work, and is it something we can scale or not? And there's a whole bunch of questions that come out of that once you start going down that road.
Well, I think part of it is I guess the next question is, and then what? So once I know that I'm talking to a bot, or that somebody's pushing an agenda, or I'm talking to a human, I think it becomes the next thing is, okay, well, then what do we do? Because we have, a good example would be mail spam, is that, you've got all of these spam tools that we've developed all the years. And we found out that there's a lot of stuff that we actually wanted to see that spam filters would kick out for us. And I wonder if we're going to see this at a different level when we're talking about AI and chatbots and AI generated conversations versus true human conversations. Is that something that you've started to look forward to? Are you just looking for the markers right now and you'll figure out how to use it later, or where are you at in this process?
Oh, in the process, and that's kind of like the question I'm landed on is, do people really care, or is it just something they complain about? That question that needs to be answered. That's kind of where we're in the testing phase of, will you go through a little bit of extra friction at a sign up to prove, that you were vouched for by another human? Are you willing to put a little extra effort into that? Whereas you go to someplace like a Reddit or something, you don't even have to really give an email address. You just sign up, you're anonymous, you start posting. But are you willing, do you really care about this problem enough to move to a new website. And so there's a whole bunch of big steps you'd have to do to really prove that you care about some of this. And I haven't proven that people actually do care enough. And so I'm in the moment of, let's put it out there. Let's get 50 signups. Let's see if those people will come back and care about if they're talking to humans or not. Well, I'd also probably add to that the good part is the response has been good. So with our first 50, 60, actually up to like 100 plus signups now, I haven't heard anyone say they don't care. And the people that have that have signed up, like, this is a great concept, this is a good idea, and so they're giving us good feedback. The only people I've heard say I don't think people really care are people who kind of just heard the idea and didn't actually do any effort to signing up or anything like that.
Sounds good. Michael?
So do you see this kind of, it's an interesting concept because, I mean, for years we've dealt with like cold calls, robocalls. Then we've transformed into, spam emails, automatic content. We're starting to see that, content just in general is being generated at an exponential rate. At what point are we dealing with real or fake, right? How do you see this working? Is this more as a social experiment with like social media, or are you thinking more in terms of content, or even in terms of like YouTube videos in general? Because I've seen way too many CI AI generated content. And it's getting so good now, it's very hard to tell if you're really talking to a real person or not.
Yeah. Well, see, whether you're talking to a real person or not comes down to, in our case, if someone has vouched for you, as in you are a person. So it's kind of this, what we call as a trust chain. And so the first person, they get their Genesis token. They're a human, kind of gone through a step to verify they're human with me personally. And then now they get an invite, and they get to invite someone else. And at that point, they're vouching that that person is human. And the thing that's kind of different with the way this system works is typically when somebody would invite someone to a platform, that's kind of the end of their interaction. Like, okay, you're in, you go do what you want. This system has a two-way accountability thing going on where I vouched for you. And now if you go and say you invite a bunch of bad people or you invite a bunch of bots, then that's going to come back and reflect on me. So the two-way accountability is kind of the new idea there. And now I missed the end of that question, actually, so you might want to restate it again.
Well, I'll follow that up because you actually made me think of something else. Are you thinking now, not from a privacy perspective, because you're not doing background checks or things like that, but are you thinking about maybe being like the real ID of the internet to verify that you're a person,
Right.
that you're a real person doing what you say you're doing and not just a bot?
Right. And so that's like the big pie in the sky idea years down the road. Can that be possible? Yes. Could you somehow link, say, your account at Reddit to say, I'm a real human because I verified it over at chirper.com? And so that'd be great. It'd be a big long-term pie in the sky idea. If it came true, that'd be amazing. But for right now, it's of course an experiment in the way we're going to draw people in order to get that trust chain of trust going is through content and social media.
Now, do you see any security concerns? So I've dealt with years of medical, so you deal with HIPAA, SOX, and that. With what you're doing, and granted, it's just referral right now, do you see a potential where you're going to have to get more real, like actually get more personal information? And how are you going to protect that if you want to become like that real ID kind of thing? Because how are you going to guarantee that Michael is Michael and Rob is Rob, and we're not like Rachel and Michelle?
Right. Well, like I was talking back to the two-way accountability, we definitely do not want to get into the space of getting real identities on this. Anonymity is like top of the chain for us. We want anonymity and accountability. The accountability part is where the whole thing kind of comes together, because if you invited someone and said that you were, a human, and they end up not being a human, that kills your trust chain, and your whole everyone in your kind of circle of trust gets hurt because of that. And so that's really the big friction point. And this is where we've had a little bit of pushback on people who haven't really tried it. Is they'll say something like, "Why would I invite anybody if they have a chance of hurting me?" And so that's the question we need to answer. Like, is that worth it to you to talk to humans? And that's really where the end question of the experiment goes.
So it's kind of like a blockchaining where you're basically, okay.
It's exactly like, it's one thing I compare it to all the time is like you use blockchain to verify financial transactions. We use our trust chain to verify humanity.
And then basically it kind of like is a pyramid. So as you get more people under you, that could essentially have a domino effect on your trust chain all the way up to. It's an interesting idea. So before I pass this back to Rob, how are you approaching people with this idea? So I like this idea, but I can see where you're getting pushback. I'm just curious how you're trying to get it out there. How are you funneling this to people to get people to test and try out your product?
Well, there's a few ways. My first idea was to go directly to people that are complaining about it online. So we go and, we are like monitoring some sites, like a Reddit or something like that, where you see comment chains going and then someone saying, "This is a bot. I'm sick of talking to bots." And, this kind of thing, they kind of talk up the chain or the thread of comments. And they're saying this whole thing was started by a bot. They're just here to get karma or something like that. And so we want to reach out directly to those people and start asking them if they really care about it enough. And if they do, then here's an invite, and come try it out. The other way was we introduced the idea on Hacker News. At first, just asking if anyone cares about talking to human beings enough, just to float the idea type of thing. And that's where we got our first kind of pushback, was like, "Yeah, I don't think people really care," or "Why would I invite somebody if it's going to hurt me?" And we got some of those little pushbacks, but then some were like, "Yeah, then we definitely care about humans." And then so we said, well, let's not even just ask the question. Let's just put it out there as, if you want to invite, here it is. And we gave a new post to Hacker News, and we got something like 100 signups in a 24-hour period, and a lot of good comments from the people who actually went and tried it out.
So what is because you've focused a couple of times on the anonymity side of it, is it seems like it's an interesting having your cake and eating it too, where you want to be anonymous, but you want somebody to identify that you're a human anonymous. And so this then becomes one of those things where it's like, okay, so where do we go with that? And so you've got these bots that are annoying you, and now you've got somebody that's annoying, but at least so they're a human, even though they're annoying you, and where that value is. So where do you see, I guess what I really want to start with this is, where does the anonymity value come into this? Why is that? Is that just something you wanted to do? Is it something that you've heard from your customers, or how does that factor into the value proposition for this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's basically stems from how I started working on it. Was, how do I make a social media site that is completely anonymous and doesn't require signups? And so that was kind of the flow of questions where it came out of. So that was like the initial building block was, let's have anonymity a first step. And building off of that, like, how do we get good answers and human answers, and just continually going through all these questions about what a social media site might look like if you did went and be completely anonymous, like say a 4chan or something like that. And that kind of turns into what some people don't look at as a great community, I guess, in some ways. 4chan kind of has a bad reputation like that. So why is it important? I think anonymity allows you to say things that you might not say, because you're gonna get some repercussions that it kind of hurts your free speech abilities, I guess, in some ways. Because if you're going to say something and then your job has to be counted on for that, what you just said, that's going to be a risk you don't want to take, right? So anonymity online, it's led to where we are today. I still think it's important in many ways, hurts in some ways, but the way this one's going, it's going to be anonymous as much as we can.
So and this is, I guess, for a clarity point of view, and I apologize that I don't know as much about Chirper. So is it effectively a social site that like the selling point is this is all humans. We're gonna avoid bots and things like that. We're gonna do what Twitter never could figure out, nor really even, I guess, LinkedIn struggling with that. Facebook, all of these are trying to figure those things out.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly the idea. Is I've kind of had some back and forth about whether to be more like a Twitter, or more like a Reddit. Is it content first? Is it microblogging first? And these are things that I could change at any moment, and we kind of go down that direction if it leans that way. But what I have settled on is we're a discussion platform. And so if you're going to come and you want to be human and you want to talk to humans, then number one, we're going to have things to discuss. So there's content, and you can make posts about yourself. You can make posts about anything, just similar to almost any content first posting website.
So is the primary goal then is to ensure that the accounts are all not bots, and it's really because you can still have a human that's using AI and they're just copy and pasting or something like that, but it's really to know that the accounts themselves do tie back to an actual physical human being of some sort.
Yes, that's another question I kind of struggled with for a little bit and settled on. The question: should we allow AI content? And the way I landed on it was basically AI is a tool. As long as a human is using the tool, that's really what we care about. So you can use AI and to generate some content or something like that, as long as you're the one doing the posting and you're the one saying this is my opinion, this is my discussion topic, this is the thing I wanted to post. I don't really care if it came from AI that helped you build that and maybe helped you with grammar or something like that. But so we're not policing your content. In other words, you say what you want. What we care about is, are you actually a human saying it?
Now, have you gotten far enough to allow the idea of non-human, like human constructs, like organizations and companies and that to have an account, or is it always going to be a single, a human-backed account?
It's a good question. It's companies are tough. That's a tough one I haven't really got into too deeply yet, because when you're dealing with a company, typically, or even like a big movie star or something like that, you're not typically talking to or first-hand account. They'll have an assistant, they'll have a PR team, they'll have marketing doing their work. And so, how do we handle that? Well, I got to say I haven't really answered that question yet, and it's up in the air a little bit.
So I like that follow up there, Rob, because the whole commercial versus individual, I'm dealing with that with one of the I'm currently working on, and it kind of falls within this space here. I kind of want to circle back for a minute, though. So you're trying to keep this as real people. I mentioned the real ID thing earlier. I know you're trying to keep this within your platform, but is there a thought of expanding that to say, okay, we verified this person? I know you want the anonymity thing, and you don't want to get into too much of the privacy, but I could almost see this being like a verification check, like a website verification check, where you could put on your social media, like, yes, I'm this, I'm not a bot. But where do you see, or how do you see handling the trolls? Because almost every single thread site, Twitter, there's always the trolls. And then how do you tell if those are bots or if it's a real person that just hates something, that is basically trolling the site? So how are you going to handle that in terms of, is it a person? Is it basically what's the etiquette? Like, how are you going to handle the etiquette of your users on top of the bots?
Yeah.
How are you going to filter them out between the two? Because if, say, I invite Rob and Rob goes off on a tangent, am I going to be penalized for his point of view, or am I just going to be penalized if he is a bot?
Okay. So here's my idea for that. It's not implemented yet, but the way I see it working out is that we have this trust chain, and there's a score associated with your level of trust, which kind of, in a way, represents how confident we are that you're human, right? And that score kind of goes up as you verified things like I invited real people, I made real content, I've done, basically signals that prove that we're pretty sure you're human, right? And so those people have a trust score that ends up being high. We could almost think about them as big flags that we would put on their content. So when you have a high trust score, your content that you post ends up showing up high. If you have a low trust score, your content's not going to be visible. It's going to be low and out of the 6 pages deep or something like that. But we can do that same idea with the people that you verified, number one, but number two, people that you may want to flag. If we have someone who's an elite trust score and they say to Chirper, they say, this guy looks like a bot, and they flag them in some way, that becomes someone we need to look at. Their score is going to go down. And that's sort of like they're a troll or maybe not human. But as far as the trolling itself, I should address that a little bit. And we just changed our tagline, and what you see at the top with our logo is just be human. And that means, I think, a little bit more than just you're actually a meat bag. You're actually, human to other people, as in civil. And you're not just there, to cause trouble. You're there to be human to other people. What would you say to them if they were sitting in front of you? And if you're not meeting that kind of criteria, then you're not really acting like a human. You're acting more like a bad actor.
Gotcha. All right. So to follow that up, because based on something you said there, sounds very much like Google, and where Google ads and that you pay, you get pushed up. How are you going to prevent people from gamifying your system to ensure that they're always going to be higher ranked? Because you could, like Rob mentioned, like if you're a corporation and you bring in like 5 or 6 people and now they're ranked high, but now they're posting a whole bunch of stuff, but they keep bringing in other people to kind of gamify it to make sure that they're always on the top. How do you handle that with your algorithms, or how are you going to handle that to prevent basically people from taking over certain people essentially taking over your system?
Well, that's just one of the signals that we look at as far as, like, did you invite 10 people? Are they all posting on the same topic? Are they all doing kind of the spam type of thing going on? That is going to be a signal that you're not acting as a human, right? So it's kind of one of the things that sits in the background underneath, and then that propagates up. If the people you invited aren't being good actors, that propagates up to your account that started inviting new people in the first place. And so when you start inviting more people to kind of get rid of these ones that you invited earlier because their trust score is going down. So now you're over here inviting new people to get their trust score back up. That new trust score that already went down because you invited these bad ones is going to go straight to them. And so it's just a kind of a chain reaction of bad to bad. So we're propagating the way you actually act online through your entire trust chain.
Now, one more and I'll hand it back to you, Rob. So within that, though, can you deassociate yourself if you invite someone and they decide they want to be a bad actor, and it's like, oh, no, that's not who I thought they were. Yeah, that's one. Two is, based on what you just said, though, if I invite, say, 5 or 6 people and we all have the same political affiliate and we start all talking about the same political affiliate, is that going to get me flagged? Because now we're all talking about similar things, especially during election cycles. That, to me, sounds like your algorithm would flag us and then we would start going down.
Well, I would say to that, it's not fully worked out yet how that's going to work. So we haven't even implemented anything content-wise that you post at this point. So it's all kind of up in the air, and we have to get some real people really interacting before we kind of make decisions on, how that trust score is going to be affected by the similarity between you and all your trust chain, right? But what was I going to say? Security, right? No, I'm getting off on tangent there.
And that is we're going to pause our conversation. Yes, this is one of those. It's been very difficult for Michael to figure out where that split is because there was a lot of very closely tied conversations throughout this. That's going to make it a fun one for us to work on. But we still have episode 2 coming up. And we will make sure that as we get into that, we're going to continue and wrap up our discussion with Richard. And we'll go from there. So pencils down, even bots down, all of your AI tools, put those away, and be looking forward to some pretty interesting stuff in the next episode. Really cool bonus stuff if you go check out the YouTube versions, episodes. Yes, I'm obviously not a bot because I can't even talk straight anymore, but check it out. This will be a great one. Thanks a lot for hanging out there. As always, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week. And we'll talk to you next time.